Minister for Education.
I move the motion standing in my name at notice of motion number 1. The purpose of this motion is to enact the bill brought to this House's and indeed the Parliament's attention by the member for Florey in relation to there being a response by the Parliament using our mechanisms when there is a petition signed by more than 10,000 South Australians. The bill was supported by this House and the Council and is now the law of the state. Usually when we have laws, there are regulations that give practice to those laws. In the case of a bill relating to petitions in the House, the regulations in question are our standing orders. The usual practice, and probably the long-term practice, is for the Standing Orders Committee of the Parliament to give some reflection on these matters, and I expect that to be the case. The issue we have is that I'm advised that there is potentially imminently a member of the House who may be bringing a petition to the House which may potentially have the requisite number of signatures. Rather than delay the inclusion of a sessional order to give effect to the bill that the Parliament has passed, the Government has therefore sought advice from the Clerk about what those sessional orders would look like. We present them to the House for inclusion in the sessional orders. I would anticipate that they will then firstly be available immediately upon the House's adoption of them for any member who wishes to bring a petition with the requisite number of signatures. But I would further anticipate that the Standing Orders Committee of the Parliament, either at the, after the first application of the sessional order, or potentially at some stage in the next year or so, would give their consideration to the application of the sessional order, whether it has worked in the current form in the way that it's intended, and consider whether further either it then be adopted into standing orders at that point or whether amendments might be considered. So the Government will be supporting this sessional order to be introduced into the our House sessional orders today, but I indicate to the House that I'm perfectly open to myself as the member for Morialta, and indeed the Government will be open to further reflections on enhancements and or the adoption into the standing orders of this sessional order as is in the future. Once again, I take the opportunity to thank the member for Florey for bringing the initial bill to the House. That bill has been supported by all corners of the political spectrum, because I think what it does is ensures that once you have a petition of 10,000 signatures, you clearly have an issue of some public significance and interest to members of the public, and the mechanism that is outlined herein, where consideration will be given to that by a parliamentary committee, and then the opportunity and the mechanism for a debate in the House about the report of that committee I think gives an enhancement to the status of those petitions over and above what they currently have. And so with that, I encourage all members to support the motion.
The member for Playford.
Mr Speaker, the right to petition the Parliament is one that that citizens of our state enjoy, and is also a very important one. But it's an ancient one, but not one that shouldn't be altered. That shouldn't be modernised whenever possible. And I think the bill presented at the time by the member for Florey was a very good one, and as the Minister pointed out, it was supported by all members of the Parliament. But like all pieces of legislation, it's not just about the bill or the Act itself, it's also about how it's implemented. And I think the Government's attempts to bring forward this motion today is a very good one. I think it's also very appropriate that not only after this is done that the Standing Orders Committee looks at it later on to see if it's been working effectively. And I think I also agree that any petition that can be signed by 10,000 or more people of this state is certainly an issue that needs to be considered by this Parliament, particularly since it's also in the form of what could be described as a real petition with real signatures on it, not one of your online Facebook-like type petitions, which I know get a large number of likes, even though they don't deal with issues that are very serious. That's right. I mean, I know we've all seen petitions get tens and tens of thousands of likes, those dealing with important issues such as who should be Doctor Who and other important issues like that. So I think presenting a petition with more than 10,000 South Australians having actually put their name and address to it, I think is certainly something that this Parliament should consider. I think this is a good first attempt at a procedure to implement the legislation that's been passed by the Parliament. I think it's eminently sensible that the Standing Orders Committee will look at it afterwards, and I'm pleased to advise the House that the Labor Party has resolved to support this motion.
The member for Flory.
Thank you, sir. May I just say how grateful I am on behalf of the electors of the state for the support from both the government and the opposition. I think it really reinvigorates for them the notion that Parliament is part of a participatory democracy, a place where their views can be considered more than once every 4 years in a far more detailed manner by bringing to the House issues of relevance to them and importance to them that they wish to bring to our attention. So I am very grateful for this opportunity to thank the Parliament on behalf of the electors of the state and look forward to perhaps being the first person to table a 10,000+ petition under the new rules.
The Minister speaks. He closes debate.
Well, sir, the week has got off to an excellent start with bonhomie and goodwill at all sides, and I look forward to 3 days of spirited debate in the same spirit as we seek to support the best interests of the people of South Australia who we serve. The member for Flory has brought a good bill to the House. We're about to put it into a place where it can be enacted, and I'm sure that the value in the consideration of these matters in the future, where we do have 10,000 signatures, those petitioners whose attention is drawn to the debates, as I'm sure many of them will be, will equally value that effort.
The question before the chair is that the motion be agreed to. It's been moved. Is it seconded? Yes, I'll put it now. All in favour say aye. Against say no. It's carried. Mr. Clark.